Well, happy Halloween, everyone. I thought I would kind of wrap this up by telling you all a few encounters that I have had over the course of the last few months. I live just above Smallett Cave here in Douglas County, Missouri, and I had posted a brief history of the Headless Cobbler of Smallett Cave. You want to go back and check that out. There was also a book written about it. Um, but I was going to go into a little bit of what I've experienced lately, and in the past, even in the book of the Headless Cobbler, there was many interviews done, and it was interesting back in the 1870s, just a quarter mile west of me here. Um, there was an old store that actually the building, as far as I know, is still there. Um, and there was a murder there, a man by a Mr. Turner was shot um, and just brains blown out everywhere. But upon witnesses, nobody witnessed who did it or any motive. Um, Even though the writer of the book it goes on to say that a Reverend Turner, no relation to the man that was murdered, um, said that the man's wife, she had left behind um, some children, that his wife was half Indian. Um, and one of those children was a young girl that lived about where I do. And she was blind, and people thought she was crazy. So that was kind of a interesting little thing. And there around this area, it's not much talked about, but there has been what I would call many unexplained suicides that have happened over the last few years, just right around me. Um, I think they probably should have been investigated, but knowing the area we're in, yeah, it just doesn't seem to happen. But what's been happening with me? Well, over the summer, it started. I had been given two Indian dolls, and I had them setting on a dresser. And I noticed that one evening I looked up, and one of the doll's arms had moved up. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So I picked up the dolls and I moved them further back to another location. Um, I then started noticing things like falling off that dresser in the front. Later on, a month later, I went in during the day and my light had been turned on. Now, this is a light that I charge, it's a solar light, and I only use it at night. So I never turn it on during the day. I would never, because I use it at night only. And it was turned on. I didn't think too much about it. And while all this is going on, in the evenings, I would notice, I would feel like something brushing up against me, just almost like if an animal, like a cat or something, would brush up against your leg. That's what I was feeling at night. Or I would feel something like almost sit down beside me, and I would look thinking maybe something was there, and there was nothing there. So this has been going on, and then one day, the heat, as everyone knows, over 100 degrees outside. Middle of the day, I walk back into my little house, and I'm like, my gosh, why is it so hot in here? And I look down, and I have a camp stove and my water kettle was on the camp stove. Camp stove was turned on. There was steam coming out of the water kettle, even though it was practically bone dry. I had just replaced the gas in this thing the day before. I would never turn it on with the high heat that we were experiencing during the day. And all my gas was gone. It ran out my gas. And this is something you have to turn and click to get it to come on. And I was out. Nobody else had been in the building. I was out there all day, and I couldn't. I just couldn't explain it. And then I am sitting there one evening, and I notice in the corner, the far corner, almost like this weird rectangular, but it's comes down, and it was all black, but it was outlined in real bright white light. It kind of came down a pattern, kind of came down, went this way, back this way, and straight down, all bright white light, like it was lit up on a black mirror. There in a flash, and then gone. And after all of that, I thought everything had pretty much settled down. I know the cave's notorious for its lights and strange sounds, and even though I'm still hearing that weird sound, like, I don't know, it's like a velociraptor or pterodactyl or something out, and it moves. It's not just in one area. And so I figured out what that is. But back on the 25th of October of this year, just a few days ago, I was going across the field. It was a little after midnight. I was heading inside, and there above the cave, out of the sky, was this huge green light, like a meteor. But there was no tail and there was no sound. But I mean, it was huge. When it wasn't way up in the sky, it was down low, and it just kind of just fell off down into the tree line. And that was kind of cool. I will admit, I've seen meteors and comets and stuff before way up in the sky, but I can't say I've quite ever seen anything like that. And but I guess whatever it is, it's not gone, because even as recent as last night, I was sitting there on the edge of the bed, and I could feel just the light touch of a hand on the back of my shoulder. And so something obviously is still there. So that's my tales so far from my experiences up here above Smallett Cave. So I hope everybody has a happy Halloween, and we'll talk to you soon.